The Realme 10 Pro series has now launched globally, so these two more affordable mid-range phones from them are quite different. And in this video, I'm going to be doing a bit of a comparison here, in depth actually, to look at the performance differences, the differences in the screen, cameras, loudspeakers, battery life, charging time, 33 watts versus 67 watts. We've got the Dimensity 1080 versus the Snapdragon 695, an IPS screen versus an AMOLED screen, and both of these versions have 108 megapixel cameras and 5000 milliamp hour batteries. With the Realme 10 Pro Plus, we get a 67 watt charger, our Type A to Type C cable, and then the 10 Pro, you get a 33 watt charger. So it's a lower wattage, slower charging, and I'll give you the exact charging speeds later on in this in-depth comparison review. Our Type C cable, and with both of the phones, you get important information, a SIM tray tool, and a TPU case in this smoky gray color. So quickly here, I'll run through the differences we have with our design and the build quality of them. The screen is the obvious one. So the cheaper model, the 10 Pro, which I'll always keep on the right of the screen, this has an IPS panel. So it's 6.72 inches, Full HD Plus resolution, 120 Hertz, both of them. But then the 10 Pro Plus has a curved AMOLED screen. It's also a lot brighter. You're looking at 800 nits versus 600 nits peak on the cheaper model. And if the screen is the thing you're looking at the most, of course, the whole time you use the most, I would definitely, if you can, opt for the OLED, or AMOLED, sorry, screen here that we've got with this model. It's a lot better, but it has the curved glass to it. And you'll see that this one completely flat and very slim bezels on the 10 Pro. Just look at how slim those are left and right. They've done an excellent job with the design of this one. Realme, just getting those bezels so slim. Very good bottom chin here, the bottom lip bezel with the 10 Pro Plus. And you'll see the frames on these. Now, the outer frame is plastic on both of them. Both are painted plastic, so if you drop it, it's going to dent. It will look pretty ugly there. But in hand, I think the squared off one actually feels just fine, but the curvature to the 10 Pro Plus feels a little bit better there. So we've got two Type-C ports here. Now, they do not support video out. They're USB 2 speeds. It's kind of to be expected at this price point. We gain a 3.5mm headphone jack with the 10 Pro, the cheaper model. The 10 Pro Plus does not have that at all, and it doesn't support micro SD cards, where the 10 Pro does. Its SIM tray tool is on the left-hand side, and you'll see the left-hand side of the 10 Pro Plus, there is nothing there. So the weights and the thickness, you are looking at, with the thickness here, 8mm on the 10 Pro Plus, and then it's just over, so about 8.3 with the 10 Pro, so slightly thicker, and the weight of it is quite a bit heavier. So we're looking at here 92 grams versus then about 175 grams. So feels a bit lighter because of the curved screen on the back, feels a bit better in hand, but I still like the squared off frame. I don't think it's bad at all. And finally, looking at the top here, you will see we've got our secondary microphone. So yes, there is active noise cancelling with the calls, and at the top there, the dual loudspeaker port, where the port is here. So they both do have the dual loudspeakers. The back of them, we've got a very similar setup with the plastic on the back here, and there's this texture to it. So you can see it kind of shimmers in the light. The black version here with the 10 Pro Plus, you can see that a little more. It picks up fingerprints a little bit, but what is more fingerprint resistant is the 10 Pro. I find that seems to hold up a little better. And then the difference with the cameras. So we've got the main 108 megapixel sensor that is on both of them, and really good to see at this price point. It's excellent to get this. And then of course the front-facing cameras, they are 16 megapixels. The difference is we've got a 8 megapixel ultra-wide with the 10 Pro Plus. There is no ultra-wide camera with this model here. It's just got that 2 megapixel macro camera. Well, it's actually used for depth. The other one here is for macros. No one's going to be taking 2 megapixel macro photos, really. Maybe you'll do it just once or twice. It's a bit of a gimmick, so they could have actually done away with that. Now, build quality of both of them is good, but I have to give the edge to the build, the design, definitely to the more expensive 10 Pro Plus model. Looking a little more closely at the screens with the white balance, you'll notice that the IPS is a little bit more correct. There's a bit of a blue tint coming through with the AMOLED here. Now the bezels left and right with the AMOLED look slimmer because of the curvature of the screen. Now you will notice that right at the edge, the colors shift out a tiny little bit. Now with the IPS panel, you'll notice quite a bit that when you move it to the side, see how it shifts out and looks a lot dimmer. So the viewing angles are better on the AMOLED screen. And it does, yes, have the problem, maybe if you're going to be using this for like 5 years, if it will last that long, this phone, and the screen is on for long extended periods, you could possibly get screen burn, but it's not really that much of an issue. I've never had screen burn issues in the last 5 years. It's only on the very first phones that had it way back in the day. So you've got settings here with a refresh rate on both of them that you can either set the auto select or high or 60. Now for this comparison, I've set both of them the whole time I've been using them at 120 Hertz. I believe most people will do that because that, after all, is what you're paying for, one of the specs, so why not use it? Now, you've both got options in here for the display size, font adjusting, color mode options. Okay, so this is where I've kept them both on vivid and setting them to natural. Then, well, they're looking pretty similar now, very similar with the white balance. And now I think the AMOLED definitely is looking a lot better. Now, this is the screen to go for because it has the 800 nits of brightness versus only 600. So it's a lot better indirect sunlight, I find, is using this one here, the 10 Pro Plus. For hands down, easy for me to pick this one. The winner for this screen is definitely the Realme 10 Pro Plus with the AMOLED screen. Both these phones are on Android 13 and running the new Realme UI 4.0. I found both of them to be very good with the performance. Very quick, very snappy, but the edge does go to the 10 Pro Plus. It has the faster chipset and it does have more memory. So this has got 12 gigabytes of RAM versus 8. I've got 256 gigabytes of storage versus 128. And I am noticing a little bit of a speed difference, especially when I open some things. Now, I've cleared out all the tasks in the background, and I've got more or less the same amount of screenshots and photos in the albums, and this is a good way to show you the difference on which one loads up the first. And you can see it was definitely the 10 Pro Plus. Now, using both of them, they are really fluid. I haven't really noticed any issues with the UI, but I have discovered that there are bugs present on both of them. Now, one of them is that if you turn on flight mode with this particular phone, the 10 Pro Plus, the screen will start to flash. It will turn off, then back on again. I wonder if it's going to start to do it. It sometimes takes a few minutes for that to happen. It's quite annoying. There's been a few other little minor bugs, so it's still, to me, there we go. It's starting to bug out now. Still doesn't feel quite polished yet. Realme UI 4.0, I believe there's quite a few firmware updates to come. Both of these phones do come with a bit of bloatware, quite a bit of bloatware installed, and it seems that in this area, Realme is going backwards a little bit. I used to compare them a lot to, say, MIUI, and MIUI is full of bloatware, but Realme used to be more light and lenient, but it's starting to creep in there. There's quite a few bloatware applications that I'm noticing they're installing. Now, there's one new thing that I don't particularly like here with the launcher, and that is when you go to your apps drawer, you had this search bar thing that was at the top. Now, the way to get rid of it is to go into the settings, and you can do so just by holding down here, pinching, and go over to more. And it's kind of hidden away, but you need to find in there when it starts to talk about the home screen mode, drawer mode there, that's where it's hidden, is you want to turn off this personalized search and these ones here, show app suggestions, because by default that is actually there. And you see when I go to the apps drawer now, it brings up all this stuff at the top and you can't even see your apps, and it always loads in the keyboard here, which is still kind of happening. It's not happening with the firmware with the 10 Pro Plus. So that's why I'm saying it's like a little bit buggy here, but I don't like this feature they've implemented in with Realme UI 4.0. So that is why I do suggest you just go in and get rid of this. You see how it's all this area now we're missing with these recommended apps. So that is why it's a little bit annoying, and it's just easier to get rid of that by going through those settings and to just go along and disable it. But hidden away in the home screen mode there. So get rid of that one and that one to fix that problem. And now you see it's kind of normal there, but it's still bringing up the keyboard automatically. If you like to watch Netflix on your phone, if you go to install it in the Google Play Store, both of the phones report this problem here. This app won't work for your device. So this is something that Realme does need to correct, along with some bug fixes that I'm sure are coming with Realme UI 4.0. Charge time on both of them. There is a big difference because we've got 67 watts versus 33 watts. This took 35 minutes. This one here, the 10 Pro, Took 55 minutes, even though the counter here stopped at 69%. I kept recording, timing it, should I say, and it's a little slower, but they're both under 1 hour. I wouldn't base my decision on that, but yes, it is faster, of course, with the more expensive model, and it looks like more efficient too, the Dimensity 1080. So we have a 5,000 milliamp hour capacity on both of these, and it did go in this fixed battery life test for over 1 hour longer, the 10 Pro Plus versus the 10 Pro. Now in real world use, you're looking at around about 7.5 hours on-screen time versus here, 7.5, 8 hours of on-screen time. So you get a real world about half an hour more of screen on time with the 10 Pro Plus. Now there is a noticeable difference in the performance. So the Dimensity 1080 versus the Snapdragon 695, they're both 6nm process chips, and they both do support 5G. The biggest difference is really the GPU, you can see here, and the memory performance that we do get with the Dimensity 1080. So this is another reason, if you can, try to go for the 10 Pro. It's just got a little bit more performance. If you game a lot, then it is the one to go for. Now there is a difference with audio because there is one that supports a 3.5mm headphone jack. That of course is the 10 Pro. So the Realme 10 Pro does have the Snapdragon 695, and the audio quality I find to be actually better when it's wired. Now for the 10 Pro Plus you need to use a Type-C adapter that is not included sadly, but then with that of course you can use it. So what about loudspeakers? They do have dual loudspeakers, downwards firing, and then the top part here. So the top here as well, the earpiece, and then the bottom speaker. So what I'll do is I will play the 10 Pro Plus first and then the 10 Pro at 100% volume, and we'll have a listen to the difference. Alright, so there is actually not a big difference at all between them. This is slightly louder. Now, they're not what I would classify call high quality loudspeakers. They're quite tinny sounding. There is hardly any bass to them, so it's mostly just mids and highs. They're alright. I mean, the volume on both of them is good. At this price point, it's acceptable enough, but the slight edge and the win only just goes to the more expensive 10 Pro Plus model. Onto our gaming performance now. So I have the high preset set and 60 frames per second with Genshin Impact. Now this is the Realme 10 Pro, so it has got the Snapdragon 695, and it's struggling here a little bit, getting around 35 frames per second. It's still perfectly playable, but I'll move over now and I will test out the 10 Pro Plus and see what frame rate that one gets. So the same settings, the high preset with 60 frames per second. Let's have a look and see how it does run it. You can see the frame rate is clearly a lot better. It's 45 frames per second just then, now 37, 42 frames. So we're getting slightly better performance out of that Dimensity 1080. And I do remember have 12 gigabytes of RAM here versus the 8 gigabytes that you'll find with the Realme 10 Pro, well, the version that they sent out to me, Realme. Now the cameras, so our front-facing camera is 16 megapixels. There is a difference in the processing, software side of thing. You can see to me that the colors are more pleasant actually with the front-facing 16 megapixel camera on the Realme 10 Pro, not the Pro Plus. But then images shot with the main camera, so 108 megapixels, seem to always be a little bit brighter with the Pro Plus. Now this I think is again another software difference, or it could just be because the chipset, the image signal processing unit in the Dimensity 1080 is a little bit better than the 695. The same story when it does come to portrait photos, that they were a little bit too bright here with the 10 Pro, and it just looks like the Pro Plus captures a slightly better portrait photo. To me, it is definitely the 10 Pro Plus that handles the dark images. The HDR seems to just be a little bit better here. Look at the differences of my cat Vera. I think it's the 10 Pro Plus that looks better. Just look at her white fur, the black fur there, and the more details that it's able to capture. So there's a big difference. Even though they're very similar, the same sensor, it's all down to the processing.
The only real big difference is, of course, we've got an 8 megapixel ultra wide with the Pro Plus, so that allows you to get a lot more into the shot. But if you've got the 10 Pro, you're not missing out on much because this ultra wide is of poor quality. It's not a great 8 megapixel sensor, there's a lot of noise, and it looks quite blurry around the edges due to the lens. Finally, low light performance out of both of them with the 108 megapixel sensor, a lot of noise, they don't look great. Now you could say the image is slightly sharper on the Pro Plus, but the Pro Plus has a little more noise. So they're kind of trading blows here. And if you're basing your decision off this, I wouldn't. If you take a lot of low light photos, you probably want to look at a more of a different phone altogether, flagship one with optical image stabilization, which this lacks. Video quality, there is a big difference. So you get 4K 30 with the Pro Plus, you don't with the Pro. However, it doesn't have electronic image stabilization, so it looks sharper, but it's shaking all over the place, as you can see from this. Now, if you shoot 1080p on both of them, the quality is about the same. There's not too much of a difference. The audio bitrate's okay. It's 256 kilobits per second, but not amazing quality for video. And then the ultra-wide camera with the Pro Plus, this is 1080p video with electronic image stabilization and very poor video quality. It looks a little washed out, it's lacking detail, sharpness is poor, and overall not really that great at all.
Okay, so it was evident and clear that the Realme 10 Pro Plus would be the better phone. It's more expensive, has the better chipset, better gaming performance, and it has the ultra-wide camera. AMOLED screen is brighter, and it just looks overall better. Both screens are 120 Hz, and they are decent panels for both of them. And then IPS is all right, but of course it just can't compete and match the AMOLED screen we do have with the 10 Pro Plus. So there is a couple of things that this model does have. So the Realme 10 Pro has the 3.5mm headphone jack, micro SD card, and the cheaper price tag. So it is the one to go for if you're on a budget and you prefer audio, you're not a gamer, you don't care too much about OLED AMOLED screens, then okay, just go for the IPS then. It'll be fine, it won't get the screen burn in 3 years' time that this could get. And I haven't really seen it myself, but it still does happen. And the better battery life and the charging time was an obvious one too here for me, being the AMOLED versus the OLED. Now the software, not 100% bug-free, as I showed you. There's a bit of a bug going on with the 10 Pro Plus, quite a major one if you use flight mode on, say, a flight. Well, you're not going to be able to use the phone because the screen just keeps cutting in and out. And then the launcher has some weird things going on with the apps drawer that shows all those new recommended applications by default. The keyboard comes up by default. And it's kind of annoying the way it's set up there, and the introduction of more bloatware slowly creeping in, I don't like either. So I hope Realme can fix that. I'm sure bug fixes are coming in on their way. So thank you for watching this comparison of the global versions here of Realme's 10 Pro series. The 10 Pro Plus, my winner, and then the 10 Pro.